Well, this is my 1911 Commander size slide, and it has it's an 80% from Stealth Arms. I just cut the rails in here. Actually, I cut them a little deep on purpose because I want this thing not to jam. It's not going to be, I don't think that really affects the accuracy that much because it's a lot to do with the barrel, and the barrel bushing has a lot to do with it too. But I wanted to make sure if there's just some kind of dirt or some kind of crap in there, it's gonna fire. Actually, the 1911 is if you get like a real accurate one, it's it's great, but you got to make sure it's super clean. I'm carrying this thing, so to hell with that. If I never need it, it's gonna be real close range. It's a 9mm. The magazine will take 8 or 9, depends on what magazine you get, plus 1 in the chamber, so you got a capacity of 9 or 10, 9mm. I'm just gonna use ball ammunition in it. So one thing I would say is you put this actually bolts inside this, the frame bolts inside this jig. This is the Stealth Arms jig, and there's a screw that goes through that puts the two halves together, and there's a couple pins. You can see these 2 pins. Pins will go in here and here, right? So this sits inside, in between, in there, sandwiched in there like that, right? Excuse me, like this. And then this is your cutter right here. Now, I'm going to tell you, when you set this up, like, there's an Allen wrench that, allows the cutter, this Allen wrench puts a set screw against the cutter. So, you can loosen up the cutter and you can push it in and out by hand. You could actually just drop right the hell out if you got this set screw real loose. You can lose the cutter too. But what you do is you loosen up this Allen wrench and you push the cutter in, and then you tighten down this screw until it starts just touching the metal. And that's your set point. Then you mark it down here where you're going to start, wherever it's going to be. You'll notice, I don't know if you can see it on there, there's a red mark on one of these actually. Probably not showing up in the light too well, but there is a red mark on one of these. So like where the red mark is, if it's the set right where it's zeroed out, where this cutter is just touching this aluminum before this rail is cut, the frame is cut for the slide. You start out and you mark that. That's your 0 set point, where the cutter's just touching the aluminum. And you go, it's 1.9 turns. So this is marked in tenths. You see it right here? That's a tenth of a turn. Now, each notch is about just a hair over 3 thousandths. It's like 3.15 thousandths. You say maybe, I don't know, 3 thousandths or 31 to 32 hundredths of an inch. You want to put it that way. Now, I cut these a little deep. Probably didn't want to cut them that deep because I didn't realize what was going on. This part right here, this part, I had to file down because it's exact 0 tolerance between that and the slide. You got to actually file down this, not just cut this, but you got to file down this part. I don't mind I made it a little loose though, because like I said, this is going to be concealed carry 9mm, and I don't want the thing, I want it, I know if you got my other 9mm I got, is a 45. I don't know how many thousands of rounds I put through it, but when I just put, I usually just use plain cast lead ball, hard cast lead ball, 230 grain. The stupid thing never jammed, man. I know some people's stuff jams, but mine never jammed. It never jammed. And I think it has to do with some of the 45s are made with really tight tolerances. And yet my 45 is not that super tight. It's a cheap one. It's a 1991 Colt. It's the stupid thing works. I don't give a crap. I mean, to me, function is everything. Right there, boo-boo. So that's a little Onyx. But the whole thing is, drama about, all the specs. Thing better work. And actually that 45 I got, that is the slide doesn't fit on there really tight. It never jammed on me. And it is very accurate. And the sights were run right on for the loads I use right from the box. So I'm hoping this one comes out the same way. The other thing is, as you're tightening this down, I like having this set screw holding the cutter. I like having that fairly tight. So you got to like, it takes a little bit of it takes quite a bit of resistance to turn this down further, so you're cutting more depth. Now, you don't want to like turn this one full notch. What I found out is if you're moving this back and forth, you know, and this is in a vise actually, you know, holding it in a vise. But you don't have to put it in a vise. You can actually hold the frame and do it freehand. That's how I was doing it as I was getting near the end. But you turn this a slight amount at a time as you're cutting. Don't try to like turn it a full notch and just go to the whole next. I just turned it a little bit at a time as it was cutting. It made it a lot easier. Then I just put like 1 drop of oil here, 1 drop of oil here, and 1 drop of oil here, which would be through here, you know, every once in a while. That's all you had to do. As long as you put a drop there, the cutter works great. You don't like need to douse it down with a lot of oil, but continually just keep putting a drop here and there of oil. You only need a little bit, but once the oil wears away, it's a lot more difficult. The other thing is, this little block here is like they give it to you because you can clamp this in a vise, this piece. You know, I put it in a vise, and I put I put Gorilla Tape on the vise so it's not to bar this. Not that it probably wouldn't matter much, because it's not this surface isn't doing anything. But I put it in the jaws of the vise. This spacer block keeps this from crushing, because you don't want to crush this, because then the slider isn't going to work. You know what I mean? You could actually tighten it up so much that you deform the aluminum. Even though it's a 75 T6 aluminum, you could still screw it up. So that's what that spacer block is for. And you know, this was a lot easier to do than I thought. I'm not done with it though. But the other thing is too, since this is a 9mm, they said I don't have to cut the barrel seat. It came with a tag on it. Do not cut barrel seat. So I'm basically done with this damn thing. The only thing I got to do now is install that little slide plunger on here, and I got this tool right here that does it. It's like I don't know, it's a crimping tool or something that puts that plunger thing on there. Then after that, I'll have to chemically clean it, get some Duracoat, the 2-part epoxy stuff, and you know, paint it. I'm probably going to paint it like a light gray with that 2-part epoxy stuff, because since this is you know, if you're looking at silver colored metal, if I wear off a part or a chip a part of the paint, you're not going to notice it much. If I paint it like, besides, I'm so sick of these black guns, man. What the hell? Everything's a black gun. I mean, you know, the brown colored gun is cool. You know, but I figured, you know, get something that pretty much matches metal color. This way, if something, you know, chips on it, no problem, right? And I don't think this can be too hard to put together. I've never really put a 45 together. I field stripped them a bunch of times, but I never like pulled them all apart. But this is Series 80. But it is a lot lighter with this little aluminum. And I got the checkered front on it. It's been bead blasted. Now, of course, you know, when you paint this, I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to paint the barrel. I gotta find out. Probably not. Now, I'm not sure what the hell this is made out of. If this is steel or this is stainless steel. This is definitely not aluminum, I know that. It's too heavy for that. I'm not sure if it's stainless steel or steel. I ain't sure. So, getting a 9mm kit is actually probably the smarter thing to do. Because you don't have to cut the barrel seat. And you got more rounds. I mean, that's one. I don't know what's wrong. You know, people are so weird that they talk like 9mm is no good or whatever. Well, whatever. It's a pistol. It's not supposed to be an anti-tank weapon. It's just for your, and in 1911 I could see the criticism of using it in the military now. I mean, not so much the 45 being bad, but the caliber. But the 1911, yeah, I mean, unless you get the 2011, it's got more capacity, a double stacker. I mean, I like the Beretta better. The M9, or what do you call it, the 92 is the same thing as civilian nomenclature. I like the Beretta better. But the Beretta is, it's too big to carry. Unless you get that little Cheetah single stack. But that's a 380. But then I like this is because you make this thing. And it's, the other thing is, a 45, a 1911 could be a 45 caliber. It could be a 9mm, and they got a 22 long rifle kit for this. So maybe I might make one other one with a 22 long rifle kit. I don't know. The disadvantage is they're not cheap to make, but Stealth Arms provides like really high quality parts and stuff. I mean, this is not a low dollar. It's like there's no plastic parts in here or nothing. So. And when I carry this, it's just going to have, I'm just going to carry plain old ball ammo. I'm not, what did you carry in the freaking military? Ball ammo, the Geneva Convention says you can't use, hollow points, whatever, but, they're blowing people up with bunker busters or whatever the hell it is, the mother of all bombs and stuff. Can't use freaking, you know what I mean? Kind of stupid. I mean, they come up with all these feel-good rules, and it's like they're freaking still, you know what I mean? It's like a feel-good rule. Can't use hollow point ammunition, but I'm gonna bomb you with all these freaking things and hit you with Gatling guns and stuff, right? But ball ammo works, and like I said, if you're, and the other thing I'm gonna do with this. I personally can't stand the grip safeties on these things because you don't grip that thing good, it don't work, right? I always pin mine down, or I use like a leather thong. I just wrap it around here and tie it off a bunch of times, and then this grip safety's down. But I can have the grip safety tied down, and I'm going to carry this hammer down. I'm not going to carry it locked and cocked, although locked and cocked is still freaking safe because the hammer's back, but it's not. It's like you got to disengage. You got to, disengage it. So take the safety off for the hammer. Then you still got to pull the trigger for it to go off. But I'm going to carry the hammer down, and it's a Series 80, so it can't actually go off if it's dropped. Because it's got the safety in there. I'm going to carry the hammer down. So this way, I'd have to pull the hammer back to fire it. But you know what? That's exactly the way all single action revolvers used to work. And then after that, it's just going to work, So the safety is going to be the hammer. You got to pull the hammer back. It's a great concealed carry because it's thinner. It's a single stack, and if you got, you can get 9 round. I think the magazine I got here is not 8 rounds, but they got 9 rounders you could put in here. 8's fine. Plus 1. I'll probably just carry the 8. You don't really need to freaking, there's concealed carry is a total different mission from, other things. If you got you got an 8-round magazine and a 9-round magazine, say, for instance, you got it, and you got, one, that's your extra magazine, you got this thing. That's plenty, man. It's not, and this thing really does cut down the weight. It's not as light as the plastic Glocks and stuff. But I personally like the trigger on this a gazillion times better than a Glock. I like the way the angle and stuff is better. Because you can make Glocks too for 80%. I think that would be a good choice. But I kind of like, I think they're all, these 80% are pretty good, so. This one, I think this is the one to choose, though, because it's the 9mm, you don't have to cut the barrel seat. It's just the rails and these 2 holes. I forgot what holes I drilled on here. I forgot which ones they were. But when I had you put them in a jig, it tells you where they are. You know. It's not this one. It's probably these two. Because this hole here is for the bolt. It's probably these two right here. So I think one is for the hammer. Forgot where it was exactly. Probably like that. Yeah. Something like that. But I think it's these two holes they drilled right here. I'm not sure what it was, but you don't want to drill those freehand. You want to use a drill press. I used a mini end mill, which you know, it's even better than a drill press because you want to make sure they go in there nice and straight. And you want to use a vise, an end mill vise, keep everything straight and lined up when you drill those holes. So you don't drill them with a hand drill. You'll really screw the thing up. So this is about ready to go. I just gotta wait. I don't know if I got any paint that's not dried out. So I'm not going to be putting it together yet. But I'd recommend, the only problem is I think the cost. Because you can get a 1911 for half of what Stealth Arms is selling these things for. I mean, from Springfield Armory, I don't know what it is, $600 or something. This whole thing is like over $1,000. You know? But, you know, part of it is, I don't want too many different kinds of weapons. It gets too confusing, and I like to understand, you know, every single part in something. So say you had a few of these in different calibers, but you know, if the parts are interchangeable, you got extra parts. If you had extra parts for a gun that's basically the same, because this could fire a 9mm, a 22 or 45, just like the AR-15 could be the 7.62 by 39 AK cartridge. It could be the 5.56. It could be a 22 caliber. It could be the 6.5 Grendel, the 6.8 Special Purpose Remington. Even a lower, you can use a lower with a 50 BMG. You know, it just makes it a lot simpler, man. You know, and this is not a crappy. You know, some people hate 1911. Some people love them. Either way, it's not a crappy. It's definitely not a crappy pistol. It's definitely one of the best ones around. You know, somebody's going to knock, you know, everybody talks crap about everything, and it is one of the best ones around. I do agree that for military purposes, you probably should get the double stack 2011 if you go with this design, you know, because of capacity. But I prefer the Beretta for military purposes. But really want a rifle for military purposes. Anyway. You want a cannon for military purposes. But again, you know, that's another thing. This is you know, it's metal, you know. It's not going to, it'll last. The aluminum frames last a long time. You know. So it's already broken in. Built it a little bit loose, but that's fine. That's the way I want it.